1, go.
Welcome to the Lightforge. This is Adwicta.
This is Merps, and if you're watching on YouTube, you might be confused that we are in the same place. Don't worry.
This is not actually one person voicing two people this whole entire time.
Yes. As you can see, we are not one person. Or I don't know. But that's not important. What is important is we have a return guest. I think this is, like, what? How many times has he been on?
I have lost count.
I really don't know.
4, 5, maybe 6.
But, yeah, it is, once again, Tempo Ratsmah becoming legendary. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man.
Hey, thanks for having me again. It's always a good time.
I think, wait, so is Ratsmah like now the most often returnee on the podcast?
I don't know. You have to count. It's either him or Shady. You gotta just count it up.
Yeah. But anyways, it's good. It's good to get someone with a lot more arena experience than us to come onto the stream. And we've always basically said that Ratsmah plays probably like triple the amount of games of us combined.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty good. Anyways, Ratsmah, how have your arena adventures been going?
Wait, really? I played triple? I think I have like 25,000 games under my belt. Or 25,000 wins.
Yeah. I have like 7,000.
Oh, I don't know how many I have.
And he has... Yeah. Wait, don't you have like 15,000 on just one server?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm about to hit 15,000 on NA.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot.
Anyways, so we have a few sort of pre-prepared topics, I guess, but we'll bring them up and sort of see where it goes. I think that's what Ratsmah podcasts always end up being. Well, first I want to ask you sort of about the leaderboard. You know, we've had the leaderboard now for what, like 3-4 months. You have been someone who has sort of not, I guess, taken up if you want to call it challenge, but also the tediousness of the arena leaderboards, right? So sort of like how, like, I guess my first question would just be like, oh, why haven't you sort of jumped in?
I think the first thing with any kind of leaderboard is you want to set yourself up with in the best position, right? So you're picking the best classes, the best cards every single time. I don't know if it's like lack of self-control, but I really like it playing all the classes, you know. And I like picking you know, kind of maybe weaker cards that might be a little bit more exciting to try to roll the dice with, be a little bit more RNG with. I think that's a lot more fun. I think you're really limited when you start to look at the arena in a way where it's like, oh, average wins this or average wins that, and then you're kind of like limiting yourself to the whole Hearthstone arena experience.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. Like, I thought when it first came out, I'm like, damn, this is such a great idea. I'm going to be entering every single month. And then when I actually started, I'm like, there kind of is no point to this. And I think you realize that, like, pretty early on, right? It's like, what is really the purpose of this? Where even if you get number 1, that's great, and you have it, but I think in Constructed, right, they have the format where those, like, you get points or something. You get points towards,
you
like...
do this thing, there's a BlizzCon thing.
There's, like, a BlizzCon thing.
2 million,
right.
I don't know, something like that.
There's, like, a nice cash prize at the end, and you can feel your top placements sort of, you know, being stepping stones to getting there. But there's nothing like that in the arena. And... I don't know. It just feels very empty. Like, after the initial excitement is gone, it's like, what do you do with it?
I don't know. So I'm looking. I've always said that if there was an arena leaderboard, I would not do it every month. Right? I've always said that I don't play enough to do that. But I still enjoy doing it, like, now and then. Like, I'm going to try in June. I did it in February. You still want to know how high you can get relative to other people. So I don't think it's like totally pointless or anything like that. It's just it's not something that's structured in a way that makes it, you know, worth it for everybody to participate. Definitely not every month, but sometimes even just like at all.
Yeah, I think it's good to like gauge yourself against other players, especially if this is what you do for a living. Like kind of like you guys not as much, but for me as well. It's a good part of it, but I would say that even like the BlizzCon points, most players that are going for legendary every month probably aren't going to, or aren't even planning on going to BlizzCon.
Yeah.
You know, they just want to compete. They just want to play the game and see if they can be really good at the game. And I think in that sense, it's really good. I think it's fine. However you play the arena, you can play more competitively and try to go for stats, or you can, you know, just have a good time. And I've chosen to do the latter. And either way is fine, you know.
Right. So basically, Rats, what would it take to get you into
Yeah,
the
let's say
competition?
we're Blizzard. Blizzard's listening to this right now, and they're like, we need to get Ratsmah to compete for the leaderboard, and we're not accomplishing that. So what can we change?
Honestly, I don't know. A big problem for me is even though I play every day, I myself feel like I'm at a disadvantage if I actually go for it, because you know I get sniped, I get ghosted. People recognize my name and they just start tuning into the stream, watch what cards I have. So it would have to be off stream, and with the amount that I already play, it's gonna be hard to do another 30 runs in a month, and you know that comes out to be like 60-ish hours. Like lately, the games are so long,
Yeah.
like maybe even 90 hours for that 30 games or 30 runs. I don't know. It's such time sink. I think if they lowered the amount of runs required, but you know then it would be too variable, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that is the problem that we see, and like Hafu, I think had the best sample size in I forget if it was in February. I think it was in February where she did 3 accounts.
Oh, right. She tried 3 accounts.
Right, she tried 3 accounts. 2 were on stream, 1 was off stream. The off stream one was number 2 NA, and the 2 on stream ones were like 60, 70-ish. So you know you see the difference there, and it's pretty impactful, and especially for someone like Ratsmah's stream size, in
Right.
which. Dude, I watch your stream right now and people already snipe, right? Like, you get quite a lot of it, and it has to be frustrating. So, yeah, like, I guess I understand your point. Like, even if they put something out there, it'd have to be something really juicy, right? Like a huge tournament at the end with lots of, not just exposure, but like money prize, and also just like a really fun format as well, which we are very far away from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's getting a bit harder now, but like, it's not impossible to do it on stream. Like, Crip did most of his runs, if not all of them, on stream for the very first month, right? I think there's less attention to it, but like most of those were like, I thought it was actually like a different account that he was trying it on, but someone said that they were actually just his on-stream accounts on his regular account, and he was number 1 in NA for the month of January, and he must get like sniped all the time.
Oh yeah, I have a theory about that though. I feel like with someone like Crip, he's more mainstream, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he gets like the majority of viewers. A lot of them are even new to the game, aren't very good. I think a lot of people that snipe him, as opposed to the people that look down, lower, and you know deeper into the arena scene, and find our streams are probably a little bit better at the game as well.
So he's
I
getting
don't-
the
I don't doubt-
snipers who are less skilled, more skilled at
Yeah, I mean, it
sniping,
could-
less skilled at the game.
It's possible, right? It's not-
Yeah, no, definitely.
No, it definitely is, and sort of the you know I've seen, and look, for those of you out there, I don't want some sort of like incendiary you know theory that we're putting him down. Obviously, Crip gets sniped a ton.
Oh, Crip snipers are so bad. They are nothing like our snipers.
Nothing compared to the quality
of
of
our snipers
of the
are so
Ratsmah
much
and
better.
Grinning Goat snipers. But no, I think there is definitely some theory to that. You know, if you're more mainstream, you just get a more mainstream audience,
Yeah,
right?
I think it gets offset by the fact that he gets sniped like 10 times as much as we do, though.
Yeah.
At least us.
Yeah.
I imagine most of his games are sniped, you know, or
Yeah.
the person's watching his stream.
Right. Look, part of it is just. I guess this is still a good place for us to talk about, because 6 months ago there was no leaderboard, right? And I guess like the topic would have been, and it was, you know, sort of like, God, how does the arena survive? Because it's just been stagnant. Now that they put this out, and they put out some like balance patches, but for me, it's always like looking forward, right? Like, what is next? You can't just put a leaderboard out there and then, you know, it's nice, and it is interesting, and no doubt it has helped, you know, get arena some more exposure. It's definitely helped out a lot of smaller streamers as well. But I'm always asking, like, all right, what else? And please let there be something else, because this can't just be it.
I mean, it's definitely not it, but like it already did, like you said, right? It already did its job, kind of. You look at the minimum amount of wins per run it takes to be on the leaderboard, and every month it's gotten higher, like significantly higher. That means more and more people are trying. That means people are like taking the arena in a more competitive way than they used to, at least the really good players. And, you know, we hear all the time, like, feedback that's like, oh, hey, you know, thanks, you know, after watching you guys, you know, I made it to number whatever on the stream. And some of the numbers are, like, higher than the numbers we got. So it's like, I'm guessing you didn't just learn from us and you're actually just a really good player anyway. But it means that people are doing this and they couldn't before, right? Like, it's easy for us to, like, track and, like, you know, put it on Twitch, but it's not for everybody. And now you can have a nice way to say, like, hey, I did this, right? Like, I am a really, really good arena player.
Right. You know, look, it is something, right? It is something, and they didn't have to do this. It's just, like I said, we had so little before. Maybe it's like, you know, they gave us a taste of, oh, man, we're going to move forward with the arena. We're going to do, you know, something a little bit more special than just putting out the expansions, and now I want more. I want a lot more with it.
So Ratsmah, what if you were Blizzard, rather than doing the leaderboard, because apparently there's nothing you can think of that'll really get you into this. What is the next thing that Merps is talking about that Blizzard could do that, you know, you may participate in? Like, if you were Blizzard and you're trying to design something to try to bring Arena into this more, like, at once more mainstream and more competitive part of this game.
Honestly, a lot of people have proposed this, and I think it's still a good idea, but different arena metas with, like, one expansion only, or a combination of expansions that would rotate over a period of time. I think that'd be a lot of fun, you know? Have a throwback to some of the old cards that we don't see anymore.
Like, for a heroic brawl, instead of having it be constructed, have it be a throwback arena.
Heroic arena, like $1,000 gold arena.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. Yeah. Like, you've always wanted high stakes arena, right? Like what we got with the brawl. We actually talked about this in a previous Lightforge, like maybe a year ago or something. You were really for the idea of like 1,000 gold arenas, which I love. But, you know, that's us with lots of gold to spare, and sort of, you know, like you want the high roller experience, not just like, yo, I have a lot of gold to throw around, but you want like the most competitive people in sort of the tournament setting, right?
Sure.
Maybe not. That was a not very convincing.
That was like a super leading question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really mind. Honestly, I enjoy Hearthstone in its current, the way it is right now, in its current form. But if they did add things to it, I think it's fine. Like, any new content is better, you know? Whether they rotate metas or they make like a heroic arena, like anything new would be great.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get away from the future and bring it back to now. We're in the Ungoro meta, and you have played all of these runs, and you've tried all of these different like cards and play styles. You know, not necessarily honing in or trying to hone in on exactly what's best, but I'm sure you have a lot of experience with, you know, all the cards that we typically don't draft, or, you know, that normal people don't draft because they're not good cards in the big picture. So I guess the question is, what are some of the cards, or like maybe like an archetype or like a way to play a particular class that has surprised you? Like, you thought it was going to be very bad, and it ended up being like even just like okay to like okay-ish good.
Archetype, I would say, super control everything. You can literally make a control deck out of everything, because the big neutral drops are really good. No. Even like the worst ones that are really expensive. Like, what is a good example of this? Like Ultrasaur. Even Ultrasaur is okay.
Right.
You know?
You're gonna get a lot of Ultrasaurs, giant mastodons, right? That's even a little bit better than Ultrasaur, I would say. And yeah, I can see what you mean, because every class is gonna be offering like a primordial Drake, right? So
yeah.
you get the primordial Drake, that's super card advantage plus a taunt. You get a mastodon, that's another taunt, and you're well on your way to a control deck. But does it does that actually work? Like, have you been playing like Control Hunter? Does that work?
I tried a Control Hunter deck today. I think I went like 6. It was all right. I honestly like the way it is right now. So many classes have access to so many like I want to call them spells, but I'll use the word answers because every class has the potential to draft the elemental package, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have these 5 cost removals that add a minion to the board, pretty much a Firelands portal in every class potentially, and it just seems like every class is a lot more flexible when it comes to archetypes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The elemental, I guess. Okay, so does the flexibility go in the other direction too? Because we've been talking about flexibility into going control for like traditionally less control classes, and we talked about all these big cards Ungoro have, and like the elemental package, which has Kalimos, which draws a card for only 1 mana, or discovers a card, sorry, for only 1 mana and can chain itself. You have Blaze Caller, which is the better Firelands portal if you get it. You have I don't know, Tovir, which is still a decent-sized card once you get it to trigger. But does it go the other way? Can you take a class like Priest and go and try to draft aggro with it and have it work?
I don't think so. I think with just like the neutral cards that exist, there's way too many taunts. I think aggro as a type, even in classes where it's appropriate, like Hunter, I was saying this today on stream, I don't think Hunter is that strong. I think it's bottom 4 at least, if not bottom 3.
Wow.
I think, yeah, just like you guys say this a lot too, how like the neutral minions kind of form what the arena will look like at like a baseline level. And you kind of have to play around very key cards, Stonehill Defenders, Tar Creepers, they're everywhere. Mm-hmm. And, the more aggressive your deck, the more you get punished by these very popular and strong cards that people pick. So, no, I don't think it goes both ways just because of the current meta right now.
All right. So if you think Hunter is bottom 4, what is your top 5?
Top 5?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mage, Rogue, Paladin. Set them aside. What's the other 2?
Honestly, I think I am a lot more confident with my Priest than my Paladin, but I would definitely put Paladin at 4 under Priest.
Okay.
And then after that, maybe Shaman?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty close between the middle ones. And then I have, Warrior, Druid, everyone has those on bottom, but I would put Hunter just like a little bit, not barely, but a little bit above those 2 classes.
So do you think something has changed? Like, did you put Hunter higher previously? Like, do you think it's people adjusting to Hunter, or was like Hunter always just kind of bad in your mind?
In Ungoro.
Yeah.
Well, this goes along with what we were talking about earlier. It's not that people have changed, it's people that have adapted and learned what cards are good, and what happens to be good are a lot of these mid-game taunts, a lot of this like control style, like staying alive style, and that's kind of shifted the way I feel about Hunter, because you're trying to get that aggressive start and it gets shut down immediately. A lot of people are picking like AoE, like very cheap AoE. Arcane Explosion is good now. It just doesn't seem like a working strategy anymore. Maybe at the start of Ungoro, Hunter would be fine. I think Hunter does really well when your opponents don't have a well-crafted deck, no matter what. And at the beginning of expansions, it's all up in the air. No one knows what cards are good and how to draft. But now people know what they're doing, and aggression just gets stopped.
I would agree. So I play Hunter quite a lot, and I play aggro quite a lot as well. It does feel, and I have nothing to back this up, but it does feel like opponents are sort of more prepared for the aggression, right? It feels like I'm seeing even more, Tar Creepers. I'm seeing more early game, and I'm sure that the mages and priests also followed up with their own late game as well. But I think they're realizing now they do need that early game in order to have a decent matchup against the Hunters. They can't just have the 3 Firelands portals and the Flame Strikes and be happy with that. So I do agree with you there. Like, aggro has seemed harder the past few days, and it is just really disappointing because they don't even need any crazy combos. Like, a turn 3 Tar Creeper is pretty freaking good. Like, that sets you back tremendously. So even just something like a turn 3 Tar Creeper, and then any sort of lead you've built up on your turns 1, 2, and 3 are erased with just their one card.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, also like just the 1-drop slot has gotten a lot weaker than it used to be, right? You know, Stonehill Defenders and even Fireflies that are picked in most decks, that just gets so much value and tempo off 1-drops that, you know, well, your curve now starts at 2 again, like it used to like 2 years ago, and that's not what hunters want to do. They don't want to start on 2.
Mm-hmm. Okay, drafting question. Non-elemental class, so not a mage or a shaman, any of the other classes. Would you take a Firefly over a Raptor? First pick.
Not made or no. So no elemental.
So not an elemental package. Also get rid of like Hunter, right? That's like a aggro class. Just take like a mage. Sorry, I was going to say mage. Take like a paladin or like a rogue.
I can still expect to draft like elemental synergy, right? Even though it's not mage or shaman.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll probably take the Firefly. It is close, but I think just the fact that it comes in 2 parts and you can play it on 1, and if you happen to be playing rogue or druid, then you trade up with the 2-drop.
Right.
I think that's pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm. I've been really pleasantly surprised by Firefly. It's just because you're committing only half a card to your turn 1. The 1/2 body is very relevant, and it's if you're playing like a mid-range or value game, you need those early cards anyways. But the 1/2 body, if you're facing any sort of aggression, it's so freaking good. Yeah. It's amazing against like the Raptor Hatchlings or the Jeweled Macaws, right? And if you're facing like Paladins, sometimes if they just hero power, you're left with a 1/1 there. It's been really surprising how much I like that card. Like it's pretty high on my personal tier list.
I mean, I don't know how surprised you are. We had it like we set it in the tier list pretty high. People were giving us crap about it. And then if anything, we made it higher once we adjusted for 1-drops by class. Like in Rogue and Paladin, for example, is like much higher now than it used to be. Because of the hero power thing that you were bringing up, Ratsmah. But yeah, we started off pretty high for a 1-mana 1/2, right? That was essentially like just a 1-mana 1/2 to a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah,
and it works. It does exactly what it needs to do, and it does that one thing very well.
Yeah. Plus, a lot of things make tokens, right? A lot of things are spawning 1/1s.
Mm-hmm.
And so not only is it just like you throw it out, it actually like helps you, helps defend you. So
yeah, I can't count the number of times I had a Firefly and then I was facing a Paladin. I was like, yes, yeah. This is an actual card in late game that will help me a lot. All right. Next question.
Oh, what? I don't have like a list of questions here, but anyways, so like past this point, we already asked Ratsmah about the super secret tips for success.
What? Go control.
Huh?
Go control. I actually wanted to ask a question about that. What do you do with Priest? So I think me and Merbs together have struggled with Priest through like 2 metas now, like through the entirety of MSG and now into Ungor. I don't know. Are you doing well with Priest?
I never do well with Priest.
Okay, so we haven't been doing well with Priest for a long time. I was fine. I was actually good with Priest back in like the the fake leaderboard days of last year and whatever, but not since MSG. So what are you doing with Priest to have success? You say that you're even rating it above Paladin right now, and in the top 5.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just luck or chance, or I actually figured something out, but it kind of feels like you have to accept that you're going to fall behind on board as Priest. You're going to be the stabilizer, and to do this, you have to first, in your draft, you have to have a couple of comeback cards: Potion of Madness, Shadow of Madness, Dragonfire. Anything works, right? Anything you can kind of bait them into, bait the opponent into. And instead of fighting for the board from the start, right? You're not trying to fight for the board from the start. You let them have it. And then maybe 3-4 turns later, you make a big comeback play that would swing the board in your favor. And all of a sudden you have this huge card advantage, just because you got a 2-for-1 for one of your madness spells or a bunch of AoE value. And from there, you just outcard them.
So in your experience in a typical successful Priest deck, what's your like 2-drop curve look like? Are you just avoiding 2s altogether? Do you like take only the best 2s? Are you looking at like 2 or 3 2-drops, or are you still trying to get like 5 2-drops?
So I like taking 2 drops that are good in late game as well. So things like Mad Bombers are really good. Even Crazed Alchemist is fine. Like anything with an extra effect that can be, add to your value in the late game, if you draw it later. And if you just draw it early, then you can play it as well. It's much less of a snowball type. So for example, you're not trying to snowball from 2. You might just hold the bomber even though you have it on 2. You might just hold it because you don't have a turn 3 play or turn 4 play. You might play it on those turns, so you can come back on that turn and like have the potential to like bomb something off the board as well.
So the thing I'm curious about is, you talk about the swing turn, but druids don't, or not druids, like priests don't really have, offering bonuses to like Dragonfire Potion and all that stuff. Like it makes me wonder how is the class sort of,
like how many of those cards do you need? Because I think you're going to be offered like on average, like you add all the cards you mentioned together that have the normal swing potential, you're gonna be offered like 1 to 1.5 of them per run.
Well, when I say swing, it doesn't have to be like you remove their stuff and swing. It could be anything. It could be something like you play something with, something like an Ancient of Blossoms, and then you Divine Spirit on the same turn, on turn 8, on a appropriate board,
right,
where that would swing it. I think Priest gets offered a lot of cards like this that may not look like they have the potential to turn tempo around, but they can. Even something like Binding Heal, combo it with Embrace the Shadows or Alkanai. That's really fast. 5 damage for 1 mana. It's a lot of tempo. So I mean, you don't have to be offered a lot. It does help, and it makes the game a lot easier on you if you get offered a lot of like Potion of Madness and AOE spells. But you kind of just have to make it work, just like any other class.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm not drafting correctly, or maybe I just suck at Priest. That's probably it. But like whenever I play Priest, I always find the problem of it seems like it's so draft dependent, right? Because like you're relying on not just the totality of your deck, you're relying a lot on these powerful cards, whether it's the AoEs or sort of like with Priest, it's so much about the individual cards, and then you're like, do you draft them and do you draw them? Like it seems to me like that affects it so much. And so then whenever I play every single game, I'm just like, all right, well, let's see what I draw into this turn. It like so much, and this has always been a problem with Priest, but so much seems out of my control. Like I don't know how you sort of combat that.
So I feel like the only games that really get out of control are when your deck's like so much worse, right? And they just have like premium, like above premium quality premiums that it's hard to find an example of this. Like just something that should not be played on a certain turn, but like just way too good. But I mean, Priests do have the cards like the new 1-drop and the Shifting Shade, Thought Steal, things that are kind of rubber band your deck quality to your opponent's deck. Like if their deck is amazing, you're gonna have some of those amazing cards. Especially higher at the wins, you're gonna get way better cards, and you just got to use them better than they can. And it's a lot more hidden for you as well. If you have a Meteor as Priest, they're not going to be able to playing around Meteor just because you Thought Stole once, stuff like that. But I don't think it's so draft dependent. Like you do end up with some bad decks, but the Priest does have a lot of cheese potential as well. Just with like doubling health and buffs, like health buffs and whatnot. So if you get a bad deck, you can always make it up with that.
Yeah, and speaking of the cheese potential, that's something that people have been complaining a lot about on the forums. I don't know if you've looked at it. First of all, I'm always surprised whenever there is an arena thread on Reddit, but a lot of them recently have talked about what you call the cheese potential. It's more, I guess, formerly known as like the random spell generation or the RNG of
Discover.
arena. Right. Yeah. You can lump in sort of draft quality in there, the discover mechanic, right? And just a lot of crazy stuff happening, and people don't seem to like that. Which people seem to love it a few months ago, and now they finally don't like it.
I think it's great because everyone was like, Discover is the best mechanic ever created. More Discover, and then they have MSG, and now they have like essentially Adapt, which is a version of Discover. And now everyone's like, there's too much Discover. You never know what anyone's going to do. Everything's unpredictable. It's an RNG fiesta again. So where do you draw the line? Do you think Arena is more RNG now than it used to be? Do you think that they should pull it back? Like, is a Discover the culprit? Is just draft quality the culprit? Is like the spell bonus? Like what has happened to the Arena that's made it all this? Because it seems like most people agree that it's getting a little more RNG dependent, but it's hard to pinpoint exactly where I went wrong. Because almost every step, I feel like the majority of the people, at least, right, like the masses, have supported, at least in theory.
I think people forget. Like, people forget, and also people like to complain about things, but people forget about like how, like, they think this is like every meta is like the worst meta that's ever existed and will exist, right?
Oh, yeah,
there's always something to complain about. There's always some stupid card. Like me myself, I still don't. I think this is one of the better metas, to be honest. Like nothing beats GVG and just uninteractive, no fun, games. But I don't think RNG has gotten too out of control. Like it's definitely it's definitely getting close. But I mean, good players still come out on top. And even with Discover, you kind of track what your opponent discovered on what turn and what it could be, and I don't know. Maybe it's my playstyle. I do like draw out games way longer than maybe it's worth. But that's because I'm really checking for every single card that they have, and I don't think people want to go through this like due diligence and kind of like play so slow and just want to end the game because it's like a 99% chance to win, and then in that 1% chance to get ruined by some kind of Discover effect. I think people just need to play better and safer.
Get good.
Get good.
Get good. Stop getting wrecked by RNG effects. Be prepared for that.
I think this is always the problem. Like, you're trying to find this very fine line of like what is fun, right? And fun is somewhere between, just rolling dice and chess, right? And Hearthstone tries to, be somewhere in the middle.
So, sorry, was fun not just Hearthstone?
Well, it's somewhere in the middle. Hearthstone right now, some people would say is like maybe perhaps closer to rolling dice. I have no opinion on this, but they think it's a little bit too random, right? And they say, oh, that's not fun.
But on your scale, is like chess the maximum of fun and rolling dice the minimum?
Rolling
dice the maximum?
No. The maximum fun is somewhere in the middle, obviously.
Oh, okay. So they're both like on the valleys.
No. They're both like, it's not fun if you go to one extreme.
Okay, so chess is not fun. Just okay. I don't know. Our listeners may think chess is fun, or
well,
they may like
it
rolling
could be
dice.
fun, but like people don't like something that is pure skill, right?
Okay.
People like this is why chess is not that popular. I think you can agree chess is not as popular as Hearthstone, right? And like people aren't be like, oh man, I want to download chess on my mobile and play it on my subway.
I think you'd be surprised how many people download chess on their mobile devices and play chess.
No, I might be surprised, but you know what? That number is a hell of a lot less than Hearthstone.
Than 70 million?
Right.
No, that's 70 million players around the world.
And people like to just roll dice or whatever. But again, Hearthstone is a lot more popular than pure gambling, like, just rolling dice, and a lot more popular than a game that is like pure skill, like chess. So it's like they're trying to position themselves, and there's like a theoretical maximum, right, in the middle. Mm-hmm. And no, I think Ratsmah is correct. People will always complain that they're like too much on one side, too much on the other, and recently it's been too much on the dice rolling, right? Like, you have no idea what they're getting out of a primordial glyph. You have no idea sort of like what they're going to draft. Like, this guy probably has 4 meteors, right? And maybe you can expect that. Maybe if you're at 11 wins, you're like, okay, this mage has like 4 meteors. I got to watch out for that.
I think it may just be interacting with your mind a little too much when it shouldn't be. So here's what I mean by this. In terms of RNG, you originally had what we'll call like the GVG RNG that Ratsmah was talking about, where if you start out fast and you have the cards and your opponent does not, you win, right? Like, that's RNG. That's almost like being land screwed in Magic the Gathering, right? Like, it just depends on what you draw in your first couple turns. If it's bad, you lose. If it's better, you win. It's hard to see that as much RNG as some words that say like, Servant of Yogg, cast a random spell, but it's really in effect the same uncontrollable RNG. If anything, Servant of Yogg is more controllable because you get to decide when to play it. And then there's also the RNG that has insanely large effects, but it just happens in one turn. And you can't really prepare for it, and so you don't think about it. So that's stuff like Servant of Yogg, but also our friend the Mad Bomber, who has been with us forever, right? You had your Flame Juggler, you had a Mad Herb Bomber, but it's the same thing. The effects of the Mad Bomber or the Mad Herb Bomber hitting and not hitting creates such a huge game-winning turn, right? Like, imagine you play a 2-1, your opponent plays a Mad Bomber. That decides the game right there. Like, that's just game. And we've been living with that for so long. And now, Blizzard has taken that RNG and switched it over to be more like in your hand, right? To be more like, oh, what random crazy card does he have? I don't know. He could have gotten a Tyrion from the Stonehill Defender, or he could have gotten a Gochar Footman. I don't know. The problem with that, in terms of it seeming like it's more RNG, is that you now have to worry about that card for the entire time your opponent holds onto that card until he plays it. Whereas the other effects are either unnoticeable in the case of being like tempo screwed in the early game, or like very close to unnoticeable, or in the case of a Mad Bomber, it's over in an instant. You're like, oh, that play screwed me, right? Like, and that's it. It's the same like, oh, he played Deathwing. How often does that happen? Whereas here, now, every single game, there is a Discover card in your opponent's hand that may or may not screw you, and you're worried about it all the time.
I mean, you see it all the time in Twitch chat, right? You're like, you know, you have a great deck, and someone's like, oh, how is this amazing deck 0-2? And then you see the opposite of that, where it's like, you have this really bad deck, they're like, wow, how is this deck 11-0? You know, it really isn't obvious when it comes to things like card draw order, you know, how important card draw order and card draw RNG is compared to, like, you know, draft RNG. But people don't like it being visible. You're completely right. But I also think there's this like diffusal responsibility where, you know, you can't not have RNG because it's like, oh, I'm just bad at this game then, and it's not fun to play. And this is why a lot of competitive esports where, you know, it's just one player versus another player aren't that popular compared to team games like Dota and League of Legends and Overwatch, were you'd be like, oh, my teammates were bad, that's why we couldn't win. Oh, I got bad RNG, that's why I couldn't win. You know, people like having this kind of what is the word here? Scapegoat. Like people like having that scapegoat.
Ability to avoid responsibility.
Yeah. No, it's true. Like, and I think it is part of the reason why, was it like Street Fighter? Those like 1v1 like fighting games. Those are like pure skill, pure timing. All like it's just you versus the other person. You can mind game, intimidate, or whatever. But that's all skill. There's no factors, right? There's no X factor there. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I belong in a much higher SR bracket than my Overwatch. Clearly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but you see like the same players still get like their high averages in arena. Like I'm sure most players can get top 500 very easily. You know, it's you gotta play the game within the game, right? If it's matchmaking, you gotta know how to talk to your teammates, how to be a leader. Sometimes it's not just Overwatch that you're playing. It's not just, you know, arena that you're playing. There's other factors to it too that'll help you succeed. That are outside the game. Yeah.
I mean, I agree. I think in Un'Goro, we had to all learn like new skills about like predicting what adapt will actually do to you, or how useful adapt is for you. The Discover cards became a bigger part of things. You had to adjust to the number and like tempo effects of the taunts. Because for the first time now, not only can your opponent play a taunt, but your opponent can play a tar taunt, which is more tempo than you know the normal tempo you're allowed to play on that turn, as far as it being your opponent's turn is concerned. So these are all things that, you know, people adjust to, and good players adjust to a little bit quicker, but it alters some of your strategies, and it alters some of what you expect your opponents can do, right? Like we always say like, oh, that's fine. Well, that's fine changes in every meta, because all that's fine mean is my opponent has done something within my range of expectations. And when that expectation now includes a Tar Creeper, like a Tar Creeper would not have been fine in the last meta. Because no one was expecting it. If your opponent put out the Tar Creeper, you're like, oh, what? I lose. Because I'm now like totally directly playing into that no matter what. Whereas now, if your opponent plays a Tar Creeper, that's usually fine. Because you just really expect your opponent to have that card. It's a good card. People have it. And there's similar cards to it that people have also. So it's just in that category of like good, you know, low mana costing taunts that stop you.
Yeah. I think the problem that we see here, and there was actually a tweet today that sort of Ben Brode through to Ixar, and basically just talking about. So someone just asked Ben Brode, it's like, hey, why don't I see Inner Fire in Arena, right? It's like, I just noticed this. First of all, I think there is a problem if someone just notices, oh my gosh, I haven't drafted Inner Fire in a long time. Like, why isn't it in Arena? I have no explanation for this. There's no information, right? But then Ixar sort of responded that it was part of changes made to help out priests, and then along with like the Flame Strike and Abyssal Enforcer thing. I don't know where we go from there, because like people complain about Meteor, right, and say it's too good of a card. So tying into our conversation from before,
it is too good of a card.
You're right. The problem with Meteor is like you can play around this stuff, you can play around RNG factors, but sometimes cards are just really freaking good, so that it's like, what really is, how do you play around Meteor, right? Even if you play a lot of small stuff, Meteor is still pretty good, and if you play anything big at all, Meteor just like decimates it. I don't know what the next step is, and Ixar said that they were sort of like working on it. They were discussing what they would do in terms of further changes. But you either keep on going down this route, right, where you have all of these unknown sort of like sneaky changes, or you don't touch anything again.
Or you have them not be sneaky and just have like a banned list, or I like what they're doing more recently, which is the 50% offering list, and you just have that list, and on the information tab, like when you go into the arena, and for people who care, they can click on it, and it shows you like offering rates on one side and all the banned cards on the other side, and it'll be like more information than most people need, but that's why it's in a tiny little eye on the side, so only the people who care will look at it. I don't think it's hard to present the information. They just need to like present it in the game client, and they're not doing that right now.
They just don't want the clutter, is what I'm saying. Because there's no reason not to have it, right? Besides it being cluttering.
Yep. Yeah, I mean I don't think it's a real problem in terms of information presentation if they wanted to actually present the information. That's not like the limitation. The limitation is they don't care. Like, they don't think this information is so pertinent to most players. And it isn't, because otherwise people would have noticed Inner Fire not being there a long time ago or whatever. So, I don't know.
Look, them not presenting the information, I think, is one issue, right? And then the separate issue is sort of what can they do further about this? They can't
do anything about it further. They're not going to change the design of the game in terms of what cards they release just because of Arena. Like, if there's a card that I think is balanced for Constructed and unbalanced for Arena, they're still going to release the card. It's still going to enter the Arena. Like, that's never going to change. Nor should it, right? Like, I don't think it should. I think it's kind of the point of the Arena, where you try to use the cards you're given to deal with perhaps a more powerful deck, right? You are not on an even playing field with your opponents with regard to what decks you have. You are on an even playing field over time after many drafts, right? Like, that's how Arena works.
Yeah. I guess the problem I see is just like, it's sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. Like, if they don't do this any further, it just makes the Abyssal Enforcer and Flame Strike thing look even more ridiculous. But if
the Abyssal Enforcer thing's ridiculous for all sorts of reasons right now.
Yeah. Like, Warlock definitely needs some help here. But if they keep on doing this as well, I think that's the worst option. Just people complain about Meteor, and then they nerf the offering rate of Meteor. And then what are people going to complain about more, right? Sort of Vicious Fledgling. That's a popular one these days. If Priest ever gets good again, any sort of AoE, right? They've established sort of that the basis of the nerfs to the offering rate was an AoE, but it seems like AoE is like,
well, it's what makes people feel bad, and people feel bad about AoE.
I don't know.
And this is part of the reason why I can't take Arena as a game mode too seriously as competitive mode. Like, the rules are not clear for everyone, and it is like, I knew this kind of thing. We talked about this before, that this kind of thing would happen, where people are like, oh, like, where did this card go? Where is it? Like, not everyone knows about these small changes and tweaks they made to Arena.
Especially because they made them more than 6 months ago.
Oh yeah, and if people don't know what the rule book is, it's not. How can there be competition?
Yeah, which I guess goes to the core of my, dissatisfaction. It sort of all of these changes hinder Arena from being a more competitive mode, right? Like I want to see the Arena tournaments. I want to see just sort of some, the leaderboards are sort of nice, but these other things like the reduced offering rates, the sort of weird changes here and there.
The clutter, the rule clutter.
The rule clutter, it takes away from Arena being any sort of competitive mode. And we've made some steps towards it, like going standard, but like all of these small tweaks, it's like, take a step forward and you take like one or even two steps backwards. And that's really the disappointing thing about it. Like I want to see Arena being more competitive. I want to see eventually there being some sort of Arena tournament format. I know MTGO has that, right?
I think you're conflating the idea of information presentation with the actual rule itself. They can have all sorts of rules. If they just put a little icon in the game, then you don't have your argument anymore. Because then people know the rules technically, unless they don't go. If they don't care to look at the rules, what are you going to do about it? They may not look at the rules for other things either. So that's just information presentation when it comes to people knowing the rules. If you're annoyed at all the little rule differences, which is why. Like, I'm annoyed at all the differences too, right? Like, why some cards aren't there, why some are at 50%, why there's, weird spell bonuses going on, why classic cards are often less frequently, what exactly is the percentage bonus for the most recent set. Like, none of this is, clear or whatever, and it's just all stacked on each other. And yeah, there's ways to simplify it, right? Like, don't get rid of any cards, make them all 50% bonus. Don't have a spell bonus, just make it whatever your current class card bonus is, but, a little higher if you want, or whatever. There's easy ways to solve all these that they're not doing. But at the end of the day, even if they're doing weird, complicated rules, as long as they're putting it out there in the game client, I don't think there's anything to complain about. Because that's the rule then, right? They make the game, they make the rules. They say the rules are this. We can complain about balance. But if they think this makes a better Arena mode, you go with it and then you tell them why this is not a better Arena mode. I don't think the complexity of the rules is so ridiculous at this point, if they actually wrote it out, that it's unworkable. I've played much more complicated games than Hearthstone Arena's rule set.
It could be so clean is the issue.
Yeah.
I think most games that are really good are just very simple at score.
Mm-hmm.
If there's more rules, it's not like we couldn't deal with that, But I feel like just a rarity change on some cards would have made a much simpler answer, and it would have been a lot more intuitive for us seeing, oh, these cards are purple, they're hard to come by. Flame Strike's purple now. Abyssal Enforcer's purple now. But now it's just I don't think they took the easiest solution and used that.
Yeah. I mean, that would be one way to do it, just to redo all the rarities for Arena, and then have a set. I still don't understand why commons and rares are the exact same. There should be at least some difference. It kills me on a just a normal OCD level, I guess.
Right. Well, you have this. You already have this differentiation, and then you say, "No, I don't want this." When you should, it takes a lot to just create differentiation, right? And then you're saying, "No, I already have this, but I don't want this," which doesn't make any sense. Yeah. I don't know. It goes back to the very beginning. I just want to see Arena being sort of, further developed. I want to see it become more competitive. But the second part of it, me wanting to see it become more competitive, that's me. That might not be Blizzard, right? For if their goal is to just have Arena be, as self-sufficient and as quote fun, whatever that means, that's fine, right? But I do want them to sort of keep on tweaking it, tinkering with it. I think we'll see something before the next expansion for Arena. It seems like there was noise here or there, and people are complaining about it. I don't think they're done sort of messing with it.
Yeah, I think it's just gonna tweak the rules. I don't think it's anything big.
Oh no! I don't think there's anything big either. But I want to see what's next, because sort of the big sort of preset changes they've already done, right? They've already done the preset change, the ones that they've sort of thought about it for a while, and then they just implemented. Right, 7.1. So what they do now will sort of be a reaction, right? They take that data, and then they see, all right, here's what we want to do, and they also take the community feedback. So I think the next change will be almost like the most telling, right? It's like what they do now that they've seen all of this. So I'm a little bit excited, but also just like, I don't know, a little bit fearful for what can come. I just really don't know. I mean, I do know that, like, I just want to see it really soon. I want to know where we're going before the next expansion.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just gotta take it with an open mind. I'm people just hate change. Like anything changes, whether it be for the good or the bad, like people just hate it no matter what. They're so unwelcoming of it. I think you just take it with an open mind and love it like, it's your child. Love it like it's your child. And even though, your child might not be doing the right thing now, just try to foster it. Give good feedback to the devs, and that's all you can do. Don't bash on the game too much. Just try to enjoy it. It's probably the best thing you can do.
Ratsmah with the good parenting advice here. Wow, this is deep, man.
No, it's just very sad to see how many people hate on the game every single time something's released. Yeah.
Well, this is also just human nature, right? Like, people hate on things. We hate on things as well. Although I tell myself, and this is how I sleep at night, I'm like, I try to put out as much constructive criticism, Obviously, look, we're having a podcast about Hearthstone Arena. If we didn't enjoy the game to, a good degree, this would not be happening, right?
Or we're total masochists.
Or we're total masochists. That could be true.
Just undercut your entire argument right there. Sorry.
Yeah, that's true. That could be all three of us. So, assuming that is not true, which we cannot do.
That's a bad assumption.
Assuming that is not true. Look, we like playing Arena. We like how it is. And a lot of it is just like, man, I really want to see it get better.
Yeah.
I want to see it go in, definitely go forward. I want to see it be a little bit more competitive. That might not be Blizzard's goal. That's fine. But I do want to see it move forward.
I care less about it moving forward. I mean, I care about it moving forward, but more it's just like this low-hanging fruits and the things you do to make it worse. Like the spell bonus is annoying to me. The little things like it was balanced for all classes, and now we specifically implemented rules to make some of the worst classes worse. Yay! And it's been 2 months and we haven't changed it back.
When you say moving forward, you said you don't mind any direction, but when you say moving forward, do you mean you just want more content for Arena then?
I want them to further refine Arena into what they want, because it doesn't seem like Blizzard has a plan for Arena right now. Like, I know what their plan is for Constructed, right? It is, it is the format in which they see most of their players go to. They have a set sort of, ladder, right? They have a set ladder, and that transitions to their big tournament. And with the tournament, they have a lot of big names there. So, you get the celebrity players, you get all of your sort of normal players. Like, you see sort of the setup that they have. For Arena, it's just like, hey, come play this if you have gold. That really is...
I think that's their entire plan.
No, but if that is their plan, there are better ways to implement that as well. Like, here are more ways to spend your gold. Or, like, here are more ways to sort of add flavor so you spend more gold. Like, just even stuff like that, right? It's like I said, if their plan is to just make it pure fun and not competitive, I won't be a fan, but I'm like, you know what, that's fine. But I want to see a plan. Right now, they are starting to like go down some sort of path, but it's so early on, I don't know what it is, right? Like, I can't really tell what it is. And I just want to see them like continue down, like, and further whatever plan they have for Arena, if they have a plan at all. That's basically it.
You don't feel like Arena is at its maturity right now, just as like the secondary game mode where, people do just drop random decks with random, given a small selection of cards. I think it's at its maturity.
No, how are you using maturity? Like, I think
it's fully mature. I don't see what more you could want.
It's just gonna get elderly after this.
Well, okay, it is old. As in, it's been there since like the beginning, and it's like, marinated in itself for quite a while.
Marinated in itself.
Yeah. Oh. Well, yeah, exactly. No. I think it's a great analogy, because if you marinate something within itself, it doesn't add anything. It doesn't add any flavor. Like, nothing has been added to it. So in terms of like maturity, if you want to talk about that,
marinate something.
Well, no, Blizzard doesn't know how to marinate it because they haven't added something to it. The analogy totally works, okay?
Okay.
No, like you add new stuff and then marinate it in that to create something that's much tastier. But they've just been marinating it in itself, you know?
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fair. Well, I think Ratsmah, you could be right. I wouldn't put it past Blizzard to just be like, all right, this is good. We're just gonna, keep doing it, like making tiny changes around the edges. But generally, we want a place for people to dump their gold, for people to experience a higher degree of randomness, or for people to want to go in, get enough rewards, feel good about themselves, build their decks, right? Explore like the cards that we have to offer without necessarily using up their dust, right? Like, and that's Arena, and that's fine. But what I think about as moving forward is not really Arena. What I think about moving forward is to actually have a limited format in Hearthstone. Like, in a card game that does not have a real limited format, it's weird to me. That's just like a weird, very obvious, unexplored territory. And this game has been out for a long time now. Blizzard has not moved Arena in any particular direction. They've done more stuff with it, but if Arena is not going to be the limited format for Hearthstone, that's fine. But come at us with your limited format, whether it's sealed or like MTG draft or like whatever, right? Whatever you think is a better format, like whatever Blizzard you think is a better format, like come out with it.
I mean, why is Arena not the limited format for Hearthstone?
Because of all the things you were talking about, right? Like it's difficult to kind of curate it and to make it, to limit its RNG and to limit its and to raise its competitiveness level within the format, just because of the limitations of the draft format, the limitations of your player pool, like all of that stuff.
So you do want a more competitive format for Arena?
Yeah, but more for limited. I'm just saying it's not necessarily Arena.
Look, so Ratsmah, taking your claim that the format has reached maturity. Mm-hmm. Let's say even if their plan is to we want more ideas for fun, right? Then I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that they can still pick to whether it's competitive or just the more fun route. If they want to do more fun route, I think they should take your idea and introduce different metas, right, more often. It does. I think that would incentivize people to, come back, right, and sort of learn a meta. Or it's like, oh, cool, I get to play with GVG cards again.
Just monthly metas.
Right.
They have monthly seasons. Why not monthly metas?
And whether or not it's competitive or fun, I think having a format in which you could set up your own tournaments, right, or just enter sort of your own tournament, and then, you can see sort of the progression and I think that would be fun. People like brackets, they like sort of the tournament format, and being able to set it up yourself will, get more people and be like, oh man, I can play with friends. I'm assuming Hearthstone players have friends. I don't know.
Yeah, that's been a huge problem for Hearthstone in general. They keep trying to make things that involve you doing stuff with your friends, and people just don't do it as much as I think they want them to.
Are you being serious or cracking jokes right now?
Well, what about the second part? I'm totally serious about the first part of what I said. No.
Is that really an issue?
Oh no, that's not really an issue. I'm just saying things. It could be an issue. I certainly don't complete any quests with friends, but I may not be their target audience.
But yeah, so I think the reason it hasn't reached maturity, and we can debate what that means, is it seems like there's still a lot of stuff they can do that would be very beneficial for both sort of goals.
Yeah, we look at that from our perspective and say, oh, why not? Why not switch, switch metas, switch different expansions? But I'm sure they know that this is a possibility, that this is something they could do and could try. I'm sure. I actually think I remember Ixar talking about it and saying that this is something that they might try, specifically the expansion changing. Mm-hmm. But there's also a lot of reasons why they don't, I'm sure. And who's to say when the Arena is at its maturity? But Blizzard, only Blizzard can say that. And at the moment, it looks like we have their response is that this is what we're getting. It's not like the Arena has been out for a short while, and it's the Arena has not changed that much from when it was first released in open beta and closed beta actually. So I feel like we have our response. It's just willingness to accept it.
I see it the other way actually, because they've recently started changing it and they've made a lot of changes, it seems like it's like, all right, now we're ready to work on it. You know, it would just seem really weird if after this point they're just like, okay, now we're done and it's just gonna be expansions, like just expansions, no more changes. I think what you're saying could be right. I would be very fearful of that and really sad by that. And I just, yeah. So first of all, there's that. But then I also, it would just be so weird. Like no changes for 2 years. And then suddenly they make some changes and tinker with it. It's like, all right, now that we've reduced 2 random cards by 50% and increased spells by 20%, we're done. That's it.
Well, I mean, yeah, they're gonna add like little changes, but it's not gonna change dramatically. Is what I'm trying to get at. Like they will continue to do those small tinkerings that they did do, but it's not gonna be anything too substantial, I guess.
I really hope you're wrong. I really. Like, just for the sake of the game, I hope you're wrong. Not like I want Ratsmah to fail when he makes a statement, kind of. Yeah.
I mean, do you you dislike the current state of Arena so much that you would say that?
The current state of the arena is, I don't think it's as good as it was before 7.1. So, for one, they need to use their new tools to figure out how to get back there. In terms of how the players interact with the cards while keeping whatever amount of principles that they were trying to inject into 7.1 and Ungoro. But yeah, I agree with you that it's going to be a bunch of small changes. But the small changes aren't small in terms of the arena meta, right? Like small changes on Blizzard's part, like we're going to make all spells like 40% more, have huge impacts on the arena. And they could make it, and I think they have a implicit goal that they're not achieving right now of making all the classes more or less balanced. They've kind of said that, right? They've come out and said it, that that's one of their goals, and they're kind of failing miserably at it with a few of the classes right now. So they're going to try to fix that. I think it's only a matter of time before the spell bonus is made more sophisticated or gotten rid of altogether, because it's creating weird results right now for like Warrior. That's like the most glaring example. And just all these little things will make Arena better. If you're talking about Merps as like big, like, oh, what will Blizzard do with the Arena? I don't even know if it's going to be the Arena, but they're going to do something with some limited format. It's too big of a potential thing for any card game not to do.
Right, and that goes back to why I don't think it's like mature yet, right? And so sort of on this, like I enjoy the Arena right now, but when I look at sort of what they could do with it, and not just like theoretical, what could a company do? Like, their competitors have done stuff like Shadowverse, right? Like their arena mode, their Take-Two mode, I think it's got a mode where you draft the other person's deck, like so, and they have practice. I can practice drafting versus someone 1v1, right? And these are definitely more changes to sort of not make it competitive, but just make it more fun, make it more accessible, right? And I think I'm just like, man, these are things that should have been implemented by now, and I think it's such low-hanging fruit. I'm like, they should definitely do this stuff, and I really hope that they implement this if they're going the fun route. If they're going the more competitive route, I have no idea. I don't know, but
okay. I think we're beating a dead horse here. You basically said the generalities of the same statement for the last like 20 minutes.
I'm just really fearful now.
I know. I can tell you're really into this, but it is circling the same, like, three-prong point the entire time. And
you are listening to the ramblings of a fearful man being like, no, this can't happen, right?
It's not even fearful. It's just, we're just passionate about the arena, right? We're just passionate. We want it to do well. And yeah, I do. I hope, in a way, I do hope I'm wrong. I'm still happy with the state of Hearthstone right now, Hearthstone Arena. But I do agree that there are a lot of things that they could do to make it more fun. Yeah, and there was this thing on Elder Scrolls as well. Elder Scrolls has 2 lanes, and usually on the right side lane, all the minions enter as stealth. But one, I think it was like a month-long event, they did Chaos Arena where, they would change up the board states. Like left side, everything got +1/+1, or it got, everything on the left side got taunt, and they just had fun with it. And I think the response from that was really good from the community. And Blizzard could do the same thing with Arena and just do something crazy with it. And I think the response would be positive.
Yeah. So let's move on to Card Good Bad. Card Good Bad is going to be the turtle guy.
The turtle
that costs
guy.
8 mana
Primalist.
and like does totally random things that you discover.
Tortolan.
Tortolian Primalist.
It's not Tortolian. It's Tortolan.
Tortolan?
There's no I in there.
Oh.
It's not like Tortellini or whatever. You always add an I in there.
Tortolan.
Anyways, this
It's a
was
made-up word. I made up a different word.
This is Ratsmah's pick. Ratsmah, why'd you pick this card, man?
I think it's a really controversial card. I'm sure some people hate it. Me, I absolutely love it. I think there's a huge upside to it, and it often does do 8 mana worth of stuff. Sometimes it can be disastrous, but it can also pull you out of positions or like win you games that you never would be able to win without it. So it is definitely like a clutch card. It's a clutch card that can throw games. It's your wild card, and I love cards like that. It's controlled RNG, and also you have to. There is a lot of skill involved in playing this card, as opposed to other Discover or all the other just random effect cards, because you got to choose when to play it, what class to pick it in, and you know what spell to pick once you play it, right? What would give you the best odds? So there's a lot of math. I would call it math. A lot of math behind the card.
So one question that I always have is, which classes and in what situations would you play it when you have more things on your board than they do?
What classes and what situations? I think Rogue is always fine because you always get you tend to get a lot of like combo or battle cry cards as Rogue. So even if you vanish your entire board, like it's not the worst, right? And that's if you don't get some kind of like card draw card like Sprint or Thistle Tea. But I mean, I think that's a weird way to ask the question. I mean, you wouldn't choose that as the first card you would try to develop on a board where you're already winning. You should want to play it on a board that you're losing in most classes. For example, if you pick it in Rogue, it can be the same effect as Sprint, but if you pick it in something like Priest, the effect is pretty controlled. Like you get things like Shadow Word Pain and Shadow Word Death, Shadow Madness, Potion of Madness, things that can only target legal targets, even if it's summoned by the Tortolan Primalist. So it is a controlled effect. I don't think you want to look at it in terms of, oh, I have a board full of 6 Deathwings. I have to play this card. I have to play this card. I might be forced into Doom or Twisting Nether, or something that kills me. You can't look at it in a way where it's you have to take that into account and be like, oh, maybe I just skip 7 mana or 8 mana this turn and not play anything on this board. And oftentimes that's a viable option. So,
I guess I was wondering, do you ever go for the Savage Roar or for the Bloodlust or for the, I don't know, Mass Evolve or whatever that card is? Or is that like a pretty strict no that you hold the card even if it just ends up being a dead card because you have the board or you're probably winning anyway?
Yeah, I mean, you go for it if you're going to play. If you're playing Shaman, this is you're asking if you would try to get a Spirit Echo or a Bloodlust to end the game early. You have to gauge that game, right? You have to gauge, do I have to end this game early, or can I play a longer game and kind of starve my opponent out of cards? If you can't, then maybe you have to go for that play. And this is why it is a really high skill card. You have to know your position in the game as well as what could happen versus like the punishments and the benefits and everything. I think played incorrectly, you might see as like the worst card. It's definitely not like a premium card, but I think it's good enough.
Yeah, we have it usually like a little bit above average in most of our classes.
Yeah, and in some classes it's like better than others, right? I think Hunter is a really good one. Yeah, because you got Call of the Wild, and you have like Deadly Shot can never target your own guy, right?
Multi-shot as well.
Multi-shot
But there's like that
good
for every class. I don't think we have anything special for Hunter.
Well, but some classes have like really bad ones. For example,
and
like what? But like Druid is not good. Like I think Paladin is definitely not good because all of their buffs can target anything.
I forget which the ones that were like definitely like lowered are, but a lot of the ones in which there were some that were not good, it doesn't really matter because you just wouldn't pick it. Like it lowers your odds a bit, but you have other like what it's not any worse than a fireball. You know what I mean?
Someone has to do some like Tortolan math and see
They
what is
did.
the
I
percent
think they
chance you
did.
get forced into like a non-neutral effect that could harm you, like
Yeah.
force a harm on yourself.
So people have done a lot of math, but everyone has different standards on what a good option is. And so you get these different results for all these I've seen like at least 4 different like sources try to math it out, and they all have different results on which ones are better or worse for which class.
For example, like if you use it in Paladin, is Spike Ridge Steed good? That really depends on the situation, right? It really depends on the situation. It's like if it hits your enemy minion,
It's
like,
awful.
Do you just is it 100% loss? Like, yeah, probably. And then you have to balance that out. So it's like, do you attack? Do you not attack? Do you? That's one of the reasons that Paladin is sort of pretty bad. Like, you have stuff like Dino Size, Blessing of Kings, Spike Ridge Steed, in which you can't control where it goes, and a lot of times
you also have like card draw stuff. You have you have your lay on hands. You have your like consecration.
Right. But then like you're taking a lot of your best spells, right, and you're lowering them, so it lowers like the average score of it.
Right, but like for Hunter, you don't even have good spells.
Yeah, Call of the Wild.
Yeah, you have very few good spells compared to Paladins to begin with, so you end up with the same raw number of good spells and your chances to hit them.
Yeah, it is very complex math because
honestly, it's probably worse than Paladin though. If you think about it, it's probably worse than like
Hunter?
Paladin, and I think it's okay in Hunter. Hunter has a lot of like neutral effects where you kind of just build your hand size.
Yeah.
But it's probably like really bad in Warlock and Paladin, but besides that, I think
Warlock is really
you
bad.
control it. Yeah.
Yeah, Warlock we have a pretty stiff penalty on.
Yeah. I feel like it's pretty controlled otherwise, though.
Yeah, well, that's what makes it good. Because the upside is huge sometimes, and the fact that you can control it. And like you said, it's a lot of like all this little math, right? You have to think about all these situations, or it's like, wait, do I just trade off my minion before I play it? Do I trade it off afterwards? And you have to think about this stuff. And sometimes you get like massively punished for doing the wrong play, or might be the wrong play. Who knows? I haven't figured the math out, but yeah, it's a good card, and it's definitely your kind of card. So I can see why you pick it.
Dude, that card is king of comebacks. Like any card that lets you do the impossible, right? Like mind control for 8 mana and develop a 5/4 is like it cannot be a bad card. It cannot be a bad card. Yeah, it just can't be a bad card.
Dude,
like it's too clutch too.
We played that co-op, and Turtle won it for us. It was an unwinnable game. I think we were down by like 7 cards. We played that into living mana, and we had like the Savage Roar in hand, and that was the only reason that we won. I remember that game, and it was just it does definitely clutch it for you sometimes because it's an insane amount of stuff that you're able to do with one card.
I had a game today where I was playing as Hunter, and I think I was 7 off lethal, and the only way I could win was to get Call the Wild off the Tortolan and Hero Power for exactly 7, and not even Call the Wild can do that. You have to get Tortolan to Call the Wild so I get Hero Power on top of that. So I mean, it does. I enjoy it quite a bit.
All right. Do you have a question from the GOAT?
No, I think we're good.
Oh, there's no question from the GOAT. The question from the GOAT was brought to you by Patron. Our patrons at patreon.com/grinandgoat. We'll have one next week. We're just running a little short on time right now.
Yeah.
And we do want to talk about the arena coup that's happening after this. This is a weird Friday recording. But we are doing arena coup after this, and the class we're doing is Shaman. So Shaman is another class you put in your top 5, Ratsmah, and I'm guessing you're going to pimp the control style for Shaman. Just a wild guess that Shaman is good control right now and not so good aggro-wise because of, maybe one particular card.
There was a podcast that came on. I think it was maybe like the last time it came on or the time previous. You guys were telling me we were talking about Priest again, and I gave you guys like just like a couple of like tips or something, and you guys went 12 right after.
I'm ready for the Ratsmah secret tips. All right, give it to us.
I think Shaman is probably the new best control class in the game. It definitely has the potential to be, with elemental cards that just keep creating cards in your hand. You get the card advantage. Also, with your totems, they always act as like a buffer to your health. You can go past 30 health if your opponents. You just build the totems on board. Your opponents trade into them, not hitting your face. You also got that powerful new spell called Volcano, so you can kind of let them win the board first, get massive Volcano value, and then with the Overload effect, you can just summon on the board. You can Volcano Earth Alley on the same turn. Massive board clear and summon to 7/8. I think there's so much flexibility with how slow you can play and not get punished with Shaman, with the comebacks that it has, that you should opt for longer games and just very high value cards. And
so do you not care about cards like Raptors and Crocs and things like that at all as Shaman? Because you're probably going to lose the board and have to Volcano your way back.
Not as much. Like I said, even if on 7 you have to Volcano, you kill the board, you can't develop anything, you just totem. You set up for the next comeback, whether it be a weapon tempo or some kind of like Blaze Caller tempo, any kind of like removal tempo, like it works. It works really well.
Okay, so just a lot of like stall cards, a lot of elemental cards, your normal initiative, board clear, that kind of stuff that you draft anyway. And how do you like getting your card advantage in Shaman? Because all control decks need some kind of card advantage. You can't just like clear them and like, because that usually when you clear them, you get like 1 or like 2 card advantage total, and you only do it like once per game. So and when they have the board, they're getting card advantage on you like every turn. So how do you get your card advantage in the end? Do you just take very few cards that are 2 mana or below? Do you take a lot of card draw cards? Do you take actual like sizable minions? Like how many cards are you comfortable with that's 7 mana or above when you're playing Shaman?
I think it's okay to have a lot of cards that are very expensive if you have the means to not die early. That's all you need, is to not die, because Shaman really is so tanky with not taking the face damage.
Right. And you have like Tidal Surge to heal.
Oh yeah, and like you should keep your eye on the draft as well. Like the more weapons and like things like Volcano you get, the more all in you should go through this strategy of just being so greedy, up to like even like 10-12 late game cards, 5+ cards. I don't think you get punished for it anymore. People don't do very strong tempo pushes. You get some of the best healing cards in the game, which don't really exist in any other class. You have Jinyu and you have the Hot Spring Guardian. No one else has heal. So like you just survive. And eventually you get one big thing on the board to survive, and you have a healing totem out. You get value off that thing, so you don't have to even stress about the value as much either. But I would say if you guys right now, the offering bonus is still up, correct?
Yes.
So like if you guys get offered a Volcano, even if you guys get offered 2, then you guys should all in, just pick the most expensive cards and plan to survive in Volcano. That's all.
All right, triple Volcano draft, here we come.
Do it.
All right, this is good. Let's see if the Ratsmah luck holds. This is like the coach with the the halftime adjustments, the halftime speech, and now we just go out there.
Why halftime? Why not like before the game?
Well, because that's never as dramatic. Also, it never happens. Like in the movies, it's always halftime, and we're behind, right? Like our star player isn't here; he's like injured. Like morale is low, and then Ratsmah comes in and gives
it's more dramatic this way.
Yeah, exactly. He gives like the inches speech.
All right. Anything else you want to say before we wrap this up, Ratsmah?
No. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So Rats, if these people are like, wow, this is an incredibly informative, masterful, and attractive arena player, where can I find this guy? Where would they be able to find you, man?
You can watch my live stream at twitch.tv/Ratsmah. You can also find my YouTube channel on youtube.com/RatsmahTV.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Ratsmah, this will not be the last time we have you on, but thank you so much for providing us a lot of good advice and just fun times.
All right, until next time, this is Adwicto.
This is Merps.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.